From family bliss to zombie hell. In a world torn apart by a zombie pandemic where survivors have built fortified cities with towering walls, Gerald Lane begins his day with warm family bliss. He is overwhelmed with love for his wife and 2 daughters, preparing a delicious breakfast for them, while his youngest daughter Connie asks for her birthday gift. He glances at the news where signs of martial law loom, but he pays no heed, oblivious to the catastrophe that will shatter his world. The family sets out on a journey to find Connie's gift, but heavy traffic obstructs their path. They do not despair, but rather have fun with their children, while military helicopters hover over the city and the radio warns of natural disasters. Nothing alarms Gerald until a policeman on his motorcycle speeds past, shattering his car's mirror. Gerald steps out to find crowds of policemen, and he is overcome with anxiety. Suddenly, a massive explosion shakes the end of the street. The policeman orders Gerald to return to his car as a huge truck rushes towards them, smashing everything in its path. In a few moments, the city plunges into the abyss of chaos and terror. Gerald leads his family through the path opened by the truck, but it overturns in the middle of the road. His daughters are seized with panic and hide behind the seats, so Gerald is busy calming them down and collides with an ambulance. They exit their wrecked car to find themselves amidst terrified crowds who do not care about their fate. The horrific picture becomes clear. The streets are teeming with savage zombies breaking into cars and biting people. Gerald witnesses the transformation of a bitten man into a zombie in seconds, and he attacks his family. They find an abandoned RV and flee to it while the zombie attack intensifies outside. Gerald's wife eliminates one of the infected, and they drive through streets filled with soldiers who are trying in vain to repel the invasion. The army withdraws, leaving the survivors to face the growing zombie hordes. Gerald and his family leave the city in search of a safe place, but they are unaware that safe places have become rare. Suddenly, his eldest daughter Rachel suffers a severe asthma attack. Gerald stops and calms his daughter while his wife Karen searches for the inhaler that she left in another bag. The girl urgently needs help. In a moment of despair, Gerald receives a call from his friend Terry, who works at the United Nations. He informs him of his coordinates and asks him to evacuate his family to a safe place from the zombies. Terry promises to help, but not for free, and conceals his true intentions. While Terry searches for a helicopter, the Lane family, carrying a rifle from the truck, heads to a shopping center in search of food and medicine for Rachel. They find the supermarket in a state of utter chaos. Karen gathers food while Gerald and his daughter go to the pharmacy. There they encounter an armed man, but he cooperates with them and gives them the medicine. Suddenly, Connie screams and Rachel is attacked by unknown assailants. Gerald intervenes and saves her, but a policeman storms the place and does not care about the chaos but only looks for food. The family realizes that their truck has been stolen, so they run towards the high-rise buildings. Gerald asks Terry to evacuate them from the roof of one of the buildings, but he promises them a helicopter only at dawn. While the zombie attack intensifies, Gerald notices a man whom the zombies avoid, so he wonders about the reason for this selectivity. The zombies break into the entrance, so the family flees to the stairs, but Connie disappears. They find her at the door of a strange apartment, and its residents, a Latin American family, welcome them. Their son Tommy speaks English, and they offer them food and shelter. They listen to a radio announcement urging people to stay in their homes. Gerald wakes up at dawn and suggests to the Spanish family to escape with them, but they refuse out of fear. The Lane family prepares to go to the roof, but zombies attack them on the stairs. They reach the roof and Gerald covers them, but a fluid from one of the zombies reaches his mouth. Gerald fears that he may have been infected, so he stands on the edge and counts down to make sure he does not turn into a zombie, but he remains human. Karen uses signal lights to attract the helicopter's attention. Tommy joins them after the zombies attack his family. While Karen and the children board the helicopter, Gerald confronts the advancing zombies, and a military officer secures his withdrawal. At the last moment, Gerald jumps into the plane and the moment of danger ends, but for how long? The helicopter carries the Lanes to a ship in the Atlantic Ocean where military leaders and high-ranking officials gather with their families. A cabin is allocated to the Lanes, and Terry arrives wanting something from Gerald. Terry tells them that the US government no longer exists and that the epidemic has spread everywhere, and people do not have the resources to combat it, nor do they know its source. A team of scientists is trying to understand what is happening, but the main hope depends on the young virologist Andrew Fassbach, who believes that the virus can be studied and a vaccine developed against it. But first, its source must be known. Ancient messages and documents indicating the existence of zombies are discussed, and all roads lead to a base in South Korea that has lost contact. It is decided to send Andrew to South Korea, but he needs an escort. A military officer approaches Gerald and reveals that he previously worked for the United Nations, and the military insists that Gerald accompany Andrew and help investigate the causes of the epidemic. Gerald realizes why Terry insisted on evacuating him and his family so quickly, as space on the ship is limited. The officer hints that if Gerald refuses the mission, his family will be dropped off on land. Gerald explains the seriousness of the situation to his wife and accepts the mission to protect his family. Karen is shocked, and Gerald bids farewell to his family, promising to return. The human rescue team consists of Gerald, Andrew, and a group of soldiers, and they board a plane to South Korea. During the flight, Gerald instructs Andrew on safety procedures, while Andrew expresses his confidence in success and admires nature even in its most terrifying inventions. Meanwhile, the ship begins to drop off some passengers, and fortunately, this does not affect the Lane family. Gerald's squad heads to the base in South Korea, and the plane is forced to make an emergency landing due to darkness. The team exits, but they face zombies, and some soldiers lose their lives, as well as Andrew, who panics and accidentally kills himself. The surviving soldiers help Gerald reach the base, but they are upset about the arrival of the American group, as they believe that calm and not attracting attention are the only way to survive. They explain to Gerald that zombies are attracted to noise, and that they can only be eliminated by shooting them in the head or burning them. Gerald replies that the whole world is suffering from this epidemic, and that he is determined to put an end to it. Gerald asks about the message that spoke about zombies, which was sent from the base days ago. The base commander shows him a burnt room where the guards tried to restrain the first infected person to a bed, but they were bitten and the soldiers had to eliminate them. The first zombie to appear at the base was a military doctor who visited a village to treat a mysterious patient and was bitten. The identity of the mysterious patient and who was in contact with him remains unknown. Gerald does not get specific answers, but he discovers that one of the soldiers was not targeted by the zombies, as they completely avoided him. Gerald meets a former CIA agent who was arrested while selling weapons to North Korea. The agent tells him that all North Korean citizens have had their teeth removed to prevent the spread of infection. He also tells him that the Israelis have found a way to deal with the zombies, so they built a wall around Jerusalem. Gerald decides to travel to Palestine and calls Karen to inform her, but the connection is lost. He leaves the base with the soldiers and they move quietly, but a call from Karen awakens the zombies. A battle breaks out and only a few survive. Gerald and the pilot manage to take off. Approaching Palestine, Gerald tries to call Karen, but the call is cut off. Gerald receives permission to land and is received by Jurgen Warmbrunn from Mossad. Warmbrunn tells him that Mossad intercepted a message from an Indian general talking about battles with zombies, so they built a wall around Jerusalem. But they do not know the source of the first zombie. Now, the most important thing is to save as many people as possible, so Palestine receives refugees. But the screams of the refugees attract the zombies who climb the wall and attack the crowds. The soldiers try to control the situation, but the numbers of zombies far exceed them. Fighting quickly spreads, and the city turns into hell. The zombies are stronger and faster, and Warmbrunn orders the soldier Sagan to evacuate Gerald. The two men look for a safe place, but the zombies break through the defenses. Gerald once again notices a person whom the zombies ignore. Sagan and the soldiers defend strongly, but she is bitten in the arm. Gerald decides to save her and cuts off her infected arm, hoping to prevent the spread of the virus. Sagan is in pain, and Gerald leads her to the airport. They find that their plane has left, so the soldiers seize a Belarusian passenger plane. The plane takes off amidst the chaos, and Gerald treats Sagan's wound. Suddenly, Gerald realizes that zombies ignore humans with serious diseases. He calls Terry and asks him to direct the plane to the nearest medical center that produces vaccines in Cardiff. A flight attendant opens the cargo door, and a zombie escapes and infects the passengers. Gerald orders the first-class passengers to be silent and close the aisle, but a passenger accidentally dropped a suitcase, drawing the zombie's attention to breaking the barrier. Gerald makes a decisive decision, taking a hand grenade from Sagan and throwing it. The explosion causes loss of pressure and sucks zombies into the engine. The plane crashes in the forest, and Gerald and Sagan survive, but they are seriously injured. Fortunately, the plane crashed near the Cardiff Medical Center, and Sagan helps Gerald reach it, and he loses consciousness at the gate. On the ship, everyone is informed of the loss of contact with the plane. Only Terry believes that Gerald survived. Because of this, the Lane family is transferred to a helicopter and leaves for an unknown destination while Terry watches them helplessly. Gerald regains consciousness after surgery, but faces doubts from the medical staff. He does not care about their questions. All he cares about is his family and demands to contact the ship. Terry replies, explaining that Gerald is a representative of the United Nations and needs their help. But he admits that his family was transferred to a refugee camp in Nova Scotia, a more dangerous place than the ship. Gerald gets angry and explodes in everyone's face. The director of the medical center tells him that his family turned into zombies, so Gerald realizes that he needs to speak calmly and explains why he came. Gerald suggests injecting himself with a treatable virus, believing that this camouflage will make him invisible to zombies. The medical staff agrees, convinced that zombies, like predators, do not care about sick prey. And if that is true, soldiers can be injected with a non-lethal virus. virus so that they can fight zombies without turning into them. Everyone is ready for the experiment, but the virus samples are in another wing of the center filled with zombies. Gerald Segan and the director prepare to sneak in, wrapping their arms for protection, carrying weapons, and heading towards the dark section. The team tries to avoid noise and sneaks towards the lab. They freeze when they see the sleeping zombies and move silently. The medical staff monitors them through cameras, but noise is inevitable, and the zombies soon notice them and start the chase. The team is forced to split up to distract the zombies, and Gerald makes his way to the lab. Sagan and the director fight fiercely but are forced to retreat before the zombie hordes. Gerald finds the lab, closes the door, and takes a box of viruses, but he faces a dilemma. Which virus should he inject himself with? A zombie appears at the door and does not seem to be leaving. Gerald has no choice. Even the medical staff do not know the appropriate virus. He asks the staff to inform his family of his love for them, and then injects himself with a random virus. Gerald waits and watches the zombies. Then he opens the lab door. The zombies approach him, but they do not attack him. His plan worked. Gerald walks through the corridor and the zombies ignore him. Gerald gets a virus-resistant vaccine inside his body and heads to meet his family. He finds them waiting for him on the shores of Nova Scotia. Thanks to Gerald, humanity has a chance to survive. Scientists develop vaccines against zombies, and each country finds its way to combat the epidemic. Gerald returns to his family and embraces them, and the dream is fulfilled. Safety for them and for humanity. Although the film appears on the surface to be just a horror film about zombies, it carries several meanings and messages that go beyond the direct story. The spread of chaos and the collapse of the global order. The film shows how a global epidemic can lead to the collapse of political and military systems, and it shows the weakness of governments in the face of a disaster of this magnitude, reflecting the reality in many real crises, such as the corona pandemic or major wars. The search for solutions amidst chaos. Jerry works with the United Nations to try to find a cure or a way to contain the infection, highlighting the importance of scientific thinking and searching for solutions instead of surrendering to fear and panic. Unlike traditional zombie films that rely on violence and fighting, this film focuses on intelligence and strategies instead of excessive force, as the final solution is related to medicine and not wars. The film reflects how some countries deal with crises unequally, such as Israel, which builds a wall to protect itself while the rest of the countries collapse, which can be considered a reference to isolation and immigration policies in the real world. Jerry Lane sacrifices himself and risks his life to save his family and humanity, reflecting the value of sacrifice and altruism, and also shows how international cooperation can be the key to solving major crises. Does the film carry pessimism or hope? Although the film shows scenes of massive destruction, it leaves room for hope, as it shows that humans are capable of adapting and finding solutions even in the darkest circumstances. The ending indicates that hope has not ended and that humanity is capable of surviving through science and cooperation. And in the end, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all new updates.